The Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, has written to the leader of the opposition, Sir Keir Starmer, about his plans to scrap North Sea oil and gas licences should he enter number 10. Arguing this will risk jobs and future energy supply and energy security, Braverman tells Starmer that Labour are the political wing of Just Stop Oil. Is she right? Let's get the views now of ex-Labour MP and highly in-demand broadcaster and entertainer, Stephen Pound. Hi, Stephen. Listen, it's a powerful line, isn't it? Labour are the political wing of Just Stop Oil. Will it stick?
Well, I have to say, I don't know whether this is just farcical or absolutely contemptible. I was getting a bit worried about the by-elections this week until I read this, and I realised that the Tories are now absolutely diving into the gutter. So, Sean Woodward and I were in Northern Ireland. I worked for him in Northern Ireland. If either of us had used House of Commons notepaper in our positions at the time to make any sort of a political statement like this, we would have lost our jobs. Look, the situation with Braverman, the most unsuccessful, the most failure-prone Home Secretary since Suella Braverman resigned last year, who's lost control of the police, lost control of immigration, lost control of the Home Office, lost control of knife crime, lost control of the streets. She is now taken a totally unsourced story with no evidence whatsoever, nominally based on an internal memo between two bunches of narcissistic loonies who claim to be talking to somebody from the Labour Party. The Daily Mail prints it up with no screenshots, no screen grabs, no information, no data whatsoever. And I have to say, Suella Braverman, I honestly hoped and thought and prayed that she was better than this. This is contemptible, utter nonsense. We all know what Keir Starmer thinks about Just Stop Oil. They think they're pretty much the same as the rest of us. They're a bunch of narcissistic egomaniacs. And as for North Sea oil, what we're talking about here is actually transitioning from the current industrial situation for people in the North Sea to new jobs. Slowly, over time, by 2030, and let's never get the situation we had before, where the pits were closed down and the miners were shut out, and to this day, those coalfield communities are suffering. Keir Starmer is being sensible, pragmatic, articulate and forward-thinking. Suella Braverman is diving into the gutter, and she brings politics into disrepute.
You're really going to have to get off that fence, Stephen Pound. I mean, listen, you say all of that, but Starmer has been supported by a very, very key supporter of Just Stop Oil, the businessman Dale Vince, has given £1.5 million to the Labour Party over the last few years. He backs Just Stop Oil, and he does want to tear up those oil and gas licences in the North Sea, which even the unions who support Labour are furious about.
Well, hang on a second. Firstly, he also sponsors Forest Green Rovers. He doesn't stop people supporting the football team. You can't have guilt by association. The Conservative Party have taken 5 times that amount of money from oil and big gas industries in the last 3 or 4 years, the last 2 years to be precise. So it doesn't actually buy influence overtly. The Labour Party is not in anybody's pocket. We're not going to do what Dale Vince tells us to do. It's absolutely ludicrous suggestion. But in all honesty, you really think for a minute that the most unpopular group of people in this country, which are probably those narcissists wandering up and down the A40, blocking the traffic, are going to get the support of someone like Keir Starmer? Do you honestly think we'd hitch our horses to that wagon? We'd be mad to do it. And I think Suella Braverman does herself no favours whatsoever by trying to make us guilty by association.
Stephen, whenever you're on the show, my assessment is that you are a man of sound judgment. I'm not so sure about Keir Starmer, right? I wish you were the leader of the Labour Party, because this is a guy who's going to invest taxpayer billions in flaky renewables. We've got Germany as a case study. They ended their nuclear industry in 2011, and they've spent a decade investing hundreds of billions in green renewables. What was the end result? They were reliant on Vladimir Putin's oil and gas. It didn't work.
I know. No, let's don't forget, the Germans went for a thing called Nord Stream 2, the idea of a direct link from Russia to Germany. We never, ever went down that road. And we are not anti-nuclear by any stretch of the imagination. What we are anti is the Chinese building our nuclear power stations and having control over the levers of those power stations, as the Conservatives are doing. But more importantly, why on earth should wind turbines be made in South Korea and Sweden? When we're talking about green industries, we're talking about proper industry, real metal-bashing industry that you and I know about. We should be building these wind turbines in this country. They should be built on Teesside, they should be in Southampton, they should be built in South Wales. And that's what we're talking about, investing in green industries. It makes so much sense. I'm sick and fed up of having all our energy owned by the Germans and by the French. And if you want to query your bill now, you've got to speak French or German. barking bonkers. As far as I'm concerned, we should have our own energy sources, our own energy supply in this country, and we should be building those wind turbines that we all need for the future. Sorry about the rant. I'd have to have balls of steel to defend that one, mate, I tell you.
Nicely done. Thank you for name-checking my back catalogue of TV hits. Stephen Pound will catch up soon. Ex-Labour MP, what do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you back Keir Starmer's plan to invest in renewables should he become Prime Minister? I think it's a massive punt. I think it's a huge gamble. I think it has failed for Germany. And I think we've got to keep a bit of fossil fuel on the back burner. I would not be tearing up those oil and gas licences. Yes, invest in green, but keep fossil fuel going until monsters like Putin have been dealt with.